West Virginia mountain melody. There's a new river singing to me. Oh, this time it's wild and free. Your West Virginia mountain melodies.
Welcome to another beautiful day here at the Clarksburg History Museum, and today we're going to talk farming. The museum has a new display devoted to farming and all the industries that were a big part of the agricultural community. So today, my special guest is Brian Brown, who owns a farm called Turtle on a Post Farm. And we'll get into the history of that name in a few moments because that really intrigued me. But Brian, thank you. Welcome today for our podcast.
Thank you.
It's really a pleasure to have you here today, and I'm excited about discussing your farm and some of the history behind it. But first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Fairmont. We grew up in Boozeville till about 14. My dad got transferred at his job as a mall manager to Newport News, Virginia. And we lived there. I graduated high school there. I was the only one in the family that wanted to come back to West Virginia. I came back after high school for a couple years, couldn't find work, finally moved back down there, got in the fire department. I spent 25 years in the fire department.
What did you do there?
I was a firefighter and bomb technician. I spent some time as a paramedic, but I was actually blessed to be able to get out of that role because it just wasn't for me. The firefighter and the bomb technician, and as a firefighter, I did a lot of odd jobs, had time on my days off, and always kind of dreamed I want to go back to the family farm, turn it back into a farm, practiced down there, sometimes successfully, most of the time not successfully, growing things. And when I retired, we moved back here. My grandfather passed away, left me his house. We moved back here, myself, my wife, and my stepson and my mother-in-law moved back here and started the farm. During that time, my father was helping. He passed a few years ago. We got our portion of the farm because it was in a family airship, and we got our portion of the farm cut out.
Now, where is your farm located?
We're on South 73, Middletown Road, just as you come into Harrison County from Taylor County.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems like every time you move away from West Virginia, you always want to try to come back. I know that was my story too.
Yeah, it was hard for me because I was waiting to retire. My sister moved back here. My parents moved back here. I'm sitting down there, the only one that didn't want to be in Virginia, wanted to be back here. Everybody else came back, and I'm having to sit there and wait for retirement to actually get back.
So now you can really enjoy the farm.
Right.
How many acres do you have?
We have 29 that we cut out of a 141-acre farm. Originally, it was 300, a little over 300. And through time, the interstate cut it in half. They ended up selling the half that was landlocked, for a better term. They sold it. And they sold off little other partitions of it. And like I said, our section is 29 acres.
Now, when I saw the name of your farm, I have to ask you, how did you get the name Turtle on a Post Farm?
When we moved here and decided to be a farm, we were trying to figure out a name. We didn't want to be the Brown Farm, so we put it out to our friends. Hey, give us some ideas for the name of our farm. We had some decent, entertaining little ones, but one of the guys I worked with as an EOD technician in the fire department, a bomb technician, we used to teach the firefighters and police officers what they were to do when they went to a bomb call before we got there. We always told them you have to look for a secondary package or something, and it got confusing. So I remember my dad used to joke about a turtle on a post. If you saw a turtle on a post, it took me a while to figure out why he thought it was funny, but turtles don't fly, they don't climb. Somebody put it there and it needs help. That's what I told them. If it's something that somewhere that somebody had to have put it there, it didn't get there on its own, investigate it. And as trying to convince my wife of it, because she didn't like the idea at first, but I was like, look, God has put us here on this post and we need some help.
Right.
And so it's kind of evolved into, now we're known pretty well through the area. Most people, when they see our t-shirts or our signs, they're like, I know where you are.
I like the name. It's really different.
And like I said, it took a while to convince my wife, but when I told her the type of marketing things we could do with the farm, with the turtle and all of that, it was she's finally warmed up to it.
Now, does your whole family help you on the farm?
Son is a teenager. My nephew that lives with us is 19. As much work as you can get out of a 19 and a 17-year-old. My wife pretty much runs the business. I tell everybody, if they have a question about our business and it deals with dollars, talk to her. If it deals with dirt, come talk to me. My brother-in-law helps out, and my mother-in-law help out.
And you sell produce.
We sell produce. And
what do you have coming on right now?
We have peppers right now. We just entered in a partnership, I guess you would call it, with WVU Agriculture. It's called the Pharmacy Program, FARMACY. The doctors for lower income or people that are more needy, that need to get vegetables in their diet, they can write them a prescription and they will go to their doctor's office. The doctor's office finds local farmers to produce produce so they can come get their produce. We're selling our produce to the pharmacy program, and they can come get we just started it last week in Shinston with we actually got with another farmer and got cauliflower from him and tomatoes, because we don't have any on yet, and peppers. And as we start getting stuff on, it'll come from our farm also. That's
a nice program. I've never heard of that
before. It is a very interesting, very, very helpful to people that need it. That a lot of it is when type 2 diabetes or something, they're newly diagnosed, and if they don't know how to eat healthy, it helps them eat healthy.
Now, do you go to local farmers markets and sell produce, or you have a stand there at your farm?
We have a stand at our farm. We thought about farmers markets, but because there's only essentially the two of us right now, and us being on a well-traveled road, we just have a roadside stand, and then we can work on the farm all of that Saturday, or we don't have to leave the farm to go sell our produce at a farmer's market. We need to be working every day we can except Sundays.
Are you going to be selling up through fall, like pumpkins, things like that?
This year we're actually, we put in, I call it my pumpkin hill. We planted a bunch of pumpkins. The pumpkin farm it was on Saltwell Road. When we saw that they closed and they weren't going to have pumpkins anymore, we sit down and talked about it, and we were like, hey, here's him not growing pumpkins anymore is a pretty big hole that needs filled. Let's see if we can fill it a little bit. And so we're hoping to sell pumpkins this fall.
Well, that's good. Okay. So if someone wants to get in touch with you, how do they contact you?
Our Facebook page is Turtle on a Post Farm. We have a website that's turtleonapostfarm.com. Those would probably be the best ways
The
to
best
get in
way.
touch.
Do they
with
have your
us.
hours of operation and everything on that?
The actually the farm stand is, there were a lot of these in Virginia where we lived, and it's kind of a novelty up here. It's a honor system. We have a little box. You come up, you pick out what's there that you want to buy. You put the money in the box. We also do pick your own price. If we wanted to sell, when we first started, we had a list of prices up on the stand. And after a couple of days of me taking those tomatoes out to the stand, it was like, well, that's still a nice tomato. It's still edible, but I wouldn't pay that price for it. So I told my wife, I said, put on our little stand, pick your own price for this weekend. And it was more successful than when we had actual prices up
That's
there.
nice.
A lot of people ask me, aren't you worried about people stealing? We also sell plant starts there in the beginning of the planting season. Aren't you worried about people stealing your produce or your plants? My thought is, if they steal a plant or produce, they're either petty or needy. I feel for them either way. It's not. I hope it'll help them, whether they're petty or needy.
Think positive about
right.
what they're doing there.
Yeah.
The only other place I've seen that done is out in the Ohio Amish country. The
Amish country has a lot of them. Yeah, there were a lot of them, like I said, in Virginia where we were, that they just have a big trailer sitting out there with a bunch of produce on it and a lockbox chained to it, and you went up, picked what you wanted, put the money in. And most of them that we talked to when we were researching it said they actually feel like they're probably making as much or more money than if they had prices on stuff, because it lets the customer decide what it's worth. So
now, do you raise animals too?
We had chickens when we first moved here, and after a lot of discussion and a fox, we've decided that if a plant's sick, it can wait a day or two or a week before we try to fix it. But if an animal's sick, we've got to get on it. And since I'm retired, I want to have a little bit of that retirement
Yeah,
feeling.
you want to enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah,
because you're kind of tied down with an animal.
Right. With an animal, we wouldn't be able, if we were going to go out of town for even a couple of days, we'd have to have somebody to care for that animal. Where with our plants, if we're going to go out of town for a couple of days with produce, we don't really need somebody to come babysit for us.
Yeah. Now you raised something I'm not familiar with, so you're going to have to educate me on hops.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Hops it's a relative of the cannabis family, marijuana. It like hemp. I always explain to people, like, hemp isn't marijuana's first cousin. Hops are like third cousin, twice removed. It's further away. That's why it wasn't during the times when hemp was made illegal. The hops didn't get caught up in that.
And hops is made for beer production.
They make it for beer, and apothecaries will use it a lot for lotions or soaps. My wife actually is just trying to make some soap with the hops. They have antibacterial, antimicrobial, antifungal properties in the oil of the hop.
Now, I don't know anything about hops, so is that something that you plant as a seed, or is that a plant?
It's a perennial. We put it in. Half of our yard is 3 years old. We just got 200 more this year that we're starting. You put it in, and it comes back every year. It'll start usually around April or May. March or April. They'll start poking out of the ground. You'll start seeing green. And then by the time the summer solstice, which is around June 21st, gets here, they will have grown about 20 foot tall. We have to have poles with cable across the top, and we string them. They grow up the string, And in that few months, they'll grow. Sometimes they'll grow 4 to 5 inches a day.
Really?
Yeah.
So what are you using off of that? Is it like a pod of a seed?
It looks like a little pine cone. And we take those, and some breweries will use them for a wet hop brew, is what they call it. Like once we harvest them, they've got 24 to 48 hours to get them into their brewing. Or we can dry them, which will give them a couple weeks. Or we also when we got into this, let me go back to, we were looking for something different to do on the farm besides just the produce. I saw an email from somebody and I was like, I don't even know who that is. So I just kind of canceled it. And my wife was like, hey, did you read this email? And it was about trying to get somebody that they were trying to get a grant to put in a study grant for hops.
Oh, okay.
We have no idea how she found us. She has no idea how she found us. Just no clue. We've talked about it multiple times, but we started into this grant for the hops. And in the preliminary stuff, we didn't quite meet all the criteria because the farm wasn't in my name. One of the other people that got into it found that it was bigger than what she was expecting and she wasn't going to be able to do it. So after a lot of wheeling and dealing and talking, they were like, okay, we'll waive the requirement because these people come to all the meetings. They talking about us. We were active in keeping tabs of it and wanted to get into it. So we ended up getting in on a grant.
Are you one of the first people in the area in Harrison County to grow hops?
In Harrison County, as far as we know in Harrison County. And we actually formed a co-op with some other hop growers. It's since been extended to other farming related ventures in the co-op. But as far as we know, there's only 2, maybe 3 other hop growers that have more than we do. We have almost 400 plants.
That's a growing business, though. That microbrewery business,
right.
I think, is an up and coming.
Right. That's one thing
here.
With the microbreweries. A lot of new things come in, and it's like, hey, this is a good idea, but you wonder what are you going to do with it after you grow it. We know the microbreweries and the local food scene. Everybody wants local. And since the pandemic, everybody wants local because then the supply chain isn't quite as fragile if it's going from me to Morgantown or even me to Charleston than if it's coming from where they grow most hops, which is the Pacific Northwest and Michigan, up in that area, the Great Lakes area, and some in New York. We can't grow as much as they do because we don't have as much flat land.
Same kind of type weather, though. I suppose the growing season is about the same.
To some extent, the biggest difference I've seen is because they have flat land, so they can grow a whole lot and they can harvest it a lot easier because these things grow 20 foot up a rope.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, Brian. Yeah. I'd like to see you do that.
Yeah. That was the big thing when my wife, I was out in the garden because we had figured, okay, we're going to have to wait a while for the hops. I was out in the garden working and she called and she was like, hey, we got 2 weeks. There's hops coming and poles and infrastructure. And I had 2 weeks to figure out what I was doing and watched a lot of YouTube videos. And
that's amazing what you've done with that.
It's been a ride.
Now, tell me, I think I wanted to touch on this a little bit about the history of your farm.
Okay. As far back as I went when we separated our part out was to 1875, where, as best I can read in the deeds, my great-great-grandfather deeded it to my great-grandfather.
Can you give their names?
Sylvanus to Roy Nixon. And then Roy had 3 kids, Vernon and Mary and Heyman. Heyman is my grandfather, step-grandfather, but he basically raised my father. And when my dad retired from the mall in Virginia, he moved back to take care of his mom and his stepdad. He took care of them.
Now, did your grandparents always farm, or did they do anything else?
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know much about Sylvanus. I know Roy, during World War II, he was, that farm was important because he actually had a coal mine on the farm. They mined coal, they had a dairy farm, so they supplied a lot of stuff to the government. I found some ration stamps that had T's on them. After researching, the best we could figure out was the T meant they could get as much fuel as they wanted in their trucks because they were hauling coal for, whether it was for domestic or across or war effort. It was still important.
Mm-hmm.
They were.
They worked hard, didn't
they did work hard.
I mean, not only that, to have a dairy farm, that's a full-time operation in itself.
Yeah, there is a dairy. The barn is still there. It was, my grandfather told me that Roy had told him, now this is family lore, but that when Roy went to Clarksburg to pick up his last load of supplies for the barn, when he was at the hardware store, he heard on the radio that the World War I armistice was being signed.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, this is a really, whether it's true or not, nobody knows because they're all gone. But
I would say it's true, though, if
it
it's
would
passed
be.
down through the family.
Size of the barn and the way the barn's built and everything, it is that time period.
I bet that barn's beautiful. Still in good shape.
It's in good shape. We're hoping to find an organization or historical to get a little bit of preservation done on it. Mm-hmm. It's starting to show its age. 7 years ago, I hope I get this right because my wife will kill me. When we got married, I had talked to him and I was like, hey, I'd really like to get married in the barn. So I had to do a lot of work and a lot of cleaning up, but it was, to us, I always say I think I'm biased. Other people that were there say I'm not being, but that was the best wedding venue that we could have possibly had.
Yeah.
And like I say, it's showing its age. Hopefully this year I'm going to have time this fall to get a little bit cleaned out, but we're looking for some help in doing some preservation. And I'd love to someday turn it into a venue, but I don't know how, like a rustic venue.
Yeah, the barn is an endangered species.
It is an endangered species.
I mean, you used to see them dotted all over the countryside, and they're just disappearing.
Yeah, and
how special though that you got to have your wedding on your family farm.
It was
on the barn.
It was awesome. It was, like I say, we had 4-day breaks. We worked in the fire department. We worked 3 days every other day and then had 4 breaks. That whole summer, I was up here every 4-day break, cleaning, repairing, just getting it so it was usable for the wedding. And
did he have the dairy farm up until when, maybe?
It was before I was born. When I was young, I remember they raised beef cattle, because I remember coming up with my dad to feed the cattle in the winter, and I was too young most of the time watching them bale hay. I didn't have to help. So I was
you were lucky to get out of that.
Obviously, I was very young.
And square bales at that.
Square bales, yeah. But in the 80s, I suppose they stopped really raising cattle and really doing much of any kind of farm related stuff.
Well, probably they were getting older too.
And they were getting older, and of course we had moved to Virginia in the 80s. So it was just my grandfather. He ran the trailer park, and that was pretty much, it was probably what I'd like to call the pause of the farm from the 80s until I've come back to try to bring it back to somewhat of its past glory, just a little different.
How special, though, that you've carried on that generation
Right.
of that farm.
Yeah, that's one thing. We're actually, I've seen farms that are century farms in the state. This fall, we're hoping to contact them and see if we're eligible for that, since we have cut some off and kind of changed the name, but it's still in the family.
Still the family.
We're
yeah.
hoping to maybe become a century farm, and just, if nothing else, to get our name out.
Right, right.
We're trying to, like most farms, we're looking at all different avenues.
You have to kind of reinvent yourself
Right.
with farming. You
Yeah.
cannot continue to do it the way your grandfather did it.
Right.
Things have
That's
changed.
a lot of the stuff when I started, my dad was like, well, that's not how it's done. That's actually, we're doing stuff more to what our great grandfathers did. We
Yes.
try not to till, we try not to use the pesticides. We're actually in the process of we're going through a mentorship to become possibly a USDA organic farm.
Okay.
And then we can put the USDA organic sticker. We use all the organic practices. We just can't put the sticker because we haven't went through all the hoops that the government, all the the paperwork and all the red tape to do that.
Well, we're all about history here at the History
Right.
Museum. And I want to just throw this in real quick. I gave you a copy of this report that we had a book come into the History Museum. And it was from the State Board of Agriculture for the years 1897 and 1898. And it has Harrison County in it. I have to read some of these facts because I just found them so interesting. Back in 1897, there were 14,000 acres in Harrison County just for growing corn, which had a yield of 250,000 bushels. For wheat, 11,000 acres yield of 110,000 bushels. And I just found that kind of amazing because I don't know of one wheat field here in Harrison County today. At one time, Harrison County had over 40 grist mills here in just this county. And you can see why now, because of all the acres of corn and wheat and oats and everything. I saw even buckwheat in on that schedule there.
Yeah.
Some of the prices, corn sold per bushel for 40 cents. Cabbage was per pound was 2 cents. Tomatoes per bushel were 50 cents. Your farm wages were 50 cents per day without board.
Wow,
and by the month without board, $14 a month is what you earn working on a farm.
That's more than what it feels like I'm earning right now. I'll have to show my wife that.
And then it said it is estimated that fully 75% of the entire population of the county are engaged in agriculture and agricultural pursuit. 75% of everyone in this county worked on a farm.
Wow. I would love to see that come back.
I would too. So I guess what I'd like to ask, in your opinion, what do you think the future holds for the small farmer?
Like I said, after the pandemic, a lot of people want their food local. They want their supply chain local.
And they want it healthy.
Like we're involved with the co-op, and we're really finding with a small farm, no small farm can supply all the demand, particularly now. Back then, it was possible. There weren't quite as many people around and everybody was doing it. Now,
and you were sort of self-sufficient too.
Now a small farm, they can't supply for the demand. One of the things that we have with our co-op is they're value added. They have a value added products. So they sell jellies, salsas. We have like 2 or 3 different jelly makers. And my first thought was, well, these two are going to be competing inside of the co-op, but neither one of those jelly makers can make enough jelly to supply the demand that there is for it. So they have to work together.
Yeah, so they're like a partnership.
And the co-op model, I think that's because you can't do it all yourself like you used to be able to.
Now, what is the co-op? Tell me a little bit about that.
Our co-op is called Mountain State Co-hop, HOP, which was because when we started it was just going to be for hop growers. We were all going to grow hops. When we get enough hops, we'll aggregate those hops to where we'll have enough to sell to a brewery. None of us on our own can supply what a brewery is asking for. But all of us together may be able to at least put a dent in what they're asking for. Also with the co-op, we had the opportunity, we could purchase a hammer mill and a pelletizer to pelletize the hops and also pelletize other things. Everybody is an owner of this co-op. Each member is a part owner. So, there's no real boss that's telling you have to do this.
And you don't have to just grow hops. It can be a small farm.
Right now, it's not just hops. Right now it is just hops and value added, like soaps. We have the salsa, jellies, just different things that are shelf stable, value added products.
How if someone would be interested in joining the co-op, how would they do that?
Mountain State Co-hop, or reach out to us on our Facebook page.
And you can give them more
and
information.
We can get you. Yeah, my wife is actually the president.
Oh, okay.
Of it because.
Is her name Jen?
Jen, yeah, because the other ones that were active were smart enough to step back when asked for president, and she just stood still, basically.
She has her hands full, doesn't she?
She does. She is.
But that's a typical farm woman,
right.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And we used to listen to Joel Salatin a lot. He's the superstar small farm guy, and he goes all over the world talking about how to run a small farm, be sufficient. And his big thing was most small farms that he had seen had failed because the farmer was trying to do all the bookkeeping, all the farming, everything himself. And that's when me and my wife were, okay, you're going to do dollars, I'm going to do dirt, and we'll help each other when each of us need help, which not often with the dollars because she don't want me involved in that. But
isn't that the way on a farm, though? I know with my own experience coming from a farm,
right.
Mom kind of took care of the books and everything.
Right.
Dad did the farming.
Right.
Mom helped, but right. Everyone had their job.
Everybody has their job, right.
So you feel the future is pretty bright for the small farmer?
I think so, yeah.
By going maybe that co-op route.
With the cooperative route, even if it's not an official co-op, just being cooperative with other farmers in your area, that's one thing we're having this weekend. I know this will be on perpetuity in the
this
internet,
is the perfect time to put this. A farm crawl. I did not know
right.
what a farm crawl was. So educate me and the listeners.
Okay, a farm crawl, we found out about it from some friends in Preston County. They were starting one there. They had learned about it from out in the Midwest. In Iowa, they have a large one. And other places they have. It's basically an open house for the farms. So you would crawl from farm to farm, drive, and visit the farm. You could stay 10 minutes if you wanted to. You could stay 2 hours if you wanted to, depending, or if in the list of farms there was, I'm not interested in flowers. I want to see animals. You would pick the ones that you want to go see animals.
And it's not just in Harrison County.
Ours is not just in Harrison County. We're the Mountain State Co-op. We're hoping to become. We're going to do it next year. We're going to try to be an annual event. The Preston County and Hampshire County have farm crawls of their own county. They're in their 3rd and 4th year, I believe it is.
So you're having yours this year when? What dates?
It's the last weekend of July.
And we're 2024. You're listening to this as of the 2024 date. Try it out this year to see how it goes.
Yeah, it's we have 7 farms that from Clarksburg to Morgantown. Most of them are pretty easy to get off of the interstate too. And it's a cooperative effort. Again, you know, we're all together. We're trying to advertise this together. We're going to be able to sell our products, whether it's flowers, whether it's produce. One of them is actually a petting zoo.
Yeah, the wild goats.
The wild
farm.
goat, that one's really cool.
Yeah, I'd love to go there. I want to make a trip there.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
And it's another example of, we couldn't just advertise like we are by ourselves as Turtle and Post Farm, but the Wild Goats Farm, Turtle and Post Farm, Stonehouse Lavender, and Mountain View, Fern Fae Farms, we can get together and be able to advertise bigger and maybe make more noise and somebody hear about it and say, hey, we want to help you out with this.
So so if I'm interested in doing this, what do I have to do? Contact you and say, can I be put on the list? And
if you were a farm?
No, if I wanted to take the tour of all of this.
you just go to the website. It tells you where the farms are and what times it'll be. It's from, I believe it's 9 to 4.
And you don't have to make appointments to go to these farms?
No, it's free. You just stop in, say hi. I'll have little tours going on my farm. I have a bunch of hills, so it'll be a little bit of a walk. We also have another one of our co-op members actually is setting up a stand on our farm, again the co-op model, that she's going to do foraging on the farm. She's going to take walks with people and say, hey, that's this medicinal herb that he's got growing wild here. You can use it for this. And
oh, that's interesting.
And it's bringing more awareness. The biggest thing we want to do is bring awareness that the small farms are out here. When we started looking, there's a whole lot more farms in Harrison County than we even expected.
Well, if the other farms are interested in joining, how do they go about doing that?
Just contact us. This year, well, as of right now, we've got like a month, less than a month. But for next year, contact us. We're going to start organizing some as soon as this farm crawls over, and see if anybody else wants to join. Some of the farms that weren't sure what this was all about, we've sent them personal invitations. Hey, we know you didn't know what this was and we're a little hesitant. Come out and see what it is, and hopefully next year they'll want to join in too. And
it's all free.
It's free for the.
And what a great way too for young children to learn where their milk comes from,
where
where their tomato sauce comes from.
Yeah, we're trying to partner with some of the local small businesses too. I know the Preston County one, they have on their farm crawl is a brewery, a microbrewery up there that it's on their farm crawl, but it's a good place to go get lunch. And while you're driving around, it's just more advertising, more getting our names out.
And these are all kind of in close proximity of one another, right?
Right. Yeah, they're all, like I said, it's 3 counties, a little bit off the interstate. Some of them are nice, pretty drives. Most of them aren't rough roads. I know in the Preston County one, some of them are pretty rough roads, but it's some of them are an adventure to get to,
but it's worth the trip.
It's worth the trip.
Tell me about Operation Welcome Home. That's on the list.
Right. Operation Welcome Home is for veterans and first responders. Heroes to Ag is what we normally call it. I think it's two separate entities, but they kind of merge together. It basically, particularly when veterans get out of the military, and sometimes they'll retire from the military and not have a direction. A lot of the stuff I've seen, they have a lot of things for veterans, but they're not for their families. Operation Welcome Home tries to include the families in with a lot of the veteran help they give. They have a high tunnel in Morgantown where they do classes. Nicole Gerard is the heading all of that up. They're going to do a lot of more classes that are just free. They've had beekeeping classes. They had a computer class one time, just any kind of class that they can come up with for the veterans to come learn new skills, learn just different things. Operation Welcome Home doesn't focus as much toward agriculture as the Heroes to Ag. The Heroes to Ag is, like I say, is for first responders too, which I fit that mold. I was never military, but I was a first responder. They recently had in February it was like a Shark Tank type competition. They called it the pitch, where if you had an idea that you were trying to get funded, you would present it to them. They had a certain amount of money that they could allot to, and
a good opportunity for you to promote your product.
Right. You promoted your idea. I got half funded, which is turning in actually today to a remote control lawnmower to mow the hills. Everybody in West Virginia knows somebody that's rolled a tractor on a hill, whether they've been hurt, got lucky, or got not lucky. A remote control lawnmower, I can mow hills and maybe open up some more land that I can grow.
Yeah, on. Keep that multiflora rose down and
keep the multiflora rose. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the autumn olives.
Yeah.
Right.
So much of our land's just going to waste because of that.
It is. That'd
be a wonderful product.
Yeah. That was part of my premise on the pitch competition was we've got a lot of land here, but I used to joke with people because I'd moved in Virginia where we were was flatland. I used to joke with them, look, West Virginia would be a lot bigger state if we flattened it out with a rolling pin. We can't use any of these hills for a lot of stuff because basically we can't maintain them or safely maintain them. If the technology's here that hopefully I can start another venture of being able to grow on a hillside.
That's a great idea.
Without having to terrace and without having to do a bunch of construction work.
You know, it amazes me, Brian, when you look at these old pictures of the farms, like in the 1800s, how they kept them clean, with the scythe and, all hand.
Right.
But back then they didn't have the Russian olive and the multiflora rose that we had come in here with the mines, the strip mines brought that in.
Yeah.
And now it just overtakes your property, and it doesn't take very many years for it to do that.
No, it's been a few years since our farm was baled, and we need to get something done.
Yeah, it gets ahead of you.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
It does.
And also for paraplegics, something for them.
Elderly.
The elderly.
Just somebody like me that's just too lazy to push them over across a hill.
In 97-degree weather.
That works too. But and taking a tractor across the hillside is dangerous.
Very dangerous.
There's technology now that can take that danger out of it.
And two, that's a good program. That Operation Welcome Home sounds to me like a good program too. If you're in a highly stressed job or something like you were in with the bombs, There's nothing more therapeutic than working in a garden.
That is
Even pulling weeds.
right.
You
That
work out a lot of
is-
aggravation
you
pulling up
do.
a weed.
There've been times I pulled a lot of weeds, but yeah, the Operation Welcome Home is they've got a lot of stuff going on and hoping to get a lot more. They just brought some more people on board and some more ventures that they're trying to move toward.
Well, this farm crawl would be the perfect opportunity for you to find out what that is all
Right.
about.
Yes.
And
And
Mountain Harvest Farm, what do they have?
I met them at the small farm conference. They're doing what I'm doing, just on a whole lot bigger scale.
Oh, okay.
And that one is they did a workshop at the small farm convention, and I'm like, I got to come see and they just, all of a sudden we just figured, hey, let's ask them if they'd be interested. And they were like, yep.
Very good. Stonehouse Lavender, that's lavender.
Yeah, that's
growing that. I'd love to know how to do that.
Right, that's in Marion County. They sell lavender, and they have an event venue. It's a barn. They do weddings, and
oh, that's nice.
It's a beautiful place.
Fern Fay Farm, what is that?
I haven't been there. That's
in Marion County.
That's in Marion County.
That's
a
flowers
flower farm. You pick flowers, you go cut your bouquets, and
that's an up and coming.
It really is.
Women, especially, I hear, are becoming involved in that. That's a good marketing.
Yeah.
And then Wild Goats Farm, I'm dying to go to because I want to go pet a goat.
Oh, we went last year, and it was my daughter. She's 5. She loved it. She didn't want to leave when it was time to leave. But
yeah, that would be fun.
Yes, there, and all these are. They want to get out the fact, hey, there's a business here. We'll be selling our produce. Lavender Place will be selling their lavender, and we're not doing it. Well, we're doing it to make money, but we're not doing it strictly to make money.
No.
We're opening up our farm so that you can come and see, hey, this is how we do stuff. If somebody comes to mine and then goes to Mountain View, wow, you don't do it. You do some of this the same, but this isn't the same. It's one thing that getting across people that are new is there's no wrong way. If it doesn't work, it was wrong.
And you're probably learning from that other farm how they do things.
Everything.
Maybe you never thought about doing it that way.
Yeah. Take their ideas and plug them into your area and your farm, your climate, your hillside. When they had flat land, I'm jealous of all of them because they got flat.
And I don't know of anything better too, Brian, than and because I grew up on a farm, in the middle of the summer, sitting down to supper, and everything on that table's come from your farm. There is just not a taste like a strawberry picked from your farm or an ear of corn plucked off, a stalk of corn. It's just, there's no describing it.
Yeah, we usually have a minor celebration when we can sit there and say, hey, everything on this table is from within 50 miles of where my butt is right this minute. Most people, I'd say probably 90% of the people in the country can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing I get in the weeds with it because I'm like, well, the salt didn't come from within 50 miles. My wife's like, just shut up. Just enjoy the celebration.
Does she can?
Everything.
Does she can?
We can green beans.
Isn't that great to open
tomatoes.
up a can of green beans in the middle of December?
Oh, yeah. And then after we started canning a lot, and then when I was younger, I never realized it, but the canned beans from the store are not the same as the canned beans from your basement.
Not at all. Or strawberry jam.
Yeah, right. Strawberry jam. Smucker's is good, but Smucker's
is good, but not like Mom makes.
Right. You get homemade, and Smucker's is trash.
Well, I'll tell you what, time is telling me I'm probably going to have to wrap this up, unfortunately. I've learned a lot. I want to make a point to come out to Turtle on the Post Farm.
Come on out. It's
Come back and visit us.
We
too.
try to advertise ourselves as transparent. If somebody wants to come out, just hit us up on Facebook and say, hey, I'd like to come see what you're doing.
And go on your website,
right.
turtleonthepostfarm.com.
Yep.
Go on that, check it out.
Yeah.
The computer has really opened up for small farms too, hasn't it?
It really has. We can actually sell our produce. We don't advertise anywhere but Facebook. I mean,
that's how I found out about you.
Right.
I didn't know about you.
Yeah.
And I thought, how perfect. We have a farm exhibit just opening up here in the History Museum, and I wanted to find out about your farm crawl.
In the farm crawl, that was perfect timing.
But thank you for coming by today. I really enjoyed this.
I have too.
Come back and visit us. Bring your family.
I will.
Bring your family back. And everyone listening, come and visit us on Main Street in Clarksburg. We're open Tuesdays through Saturdays from 10 in the morning until 4. Stop in and see the new farm exhibit. I've been putting it together with lots of help here from the volunteers, so I'm kind of proud of it. I'm anxious for people to see it and see what they like about it. And if anyone has any old photos, and Brian, if you have any old photos of your family farm, bring them in and I'll make copies, because I have a wall where I'm sticking up the old photos for farms. I'll close this podcast with remember to make each day count, because you are making history today. Thank you very much.
West Virginia mountain melody, there's a new river singing to me. Oh, this time it's wild and free, your West Virginia mountain